Hi there, I'm Sylvia Plester-Silk, and 10 Minutes to Joy is your weekly invitation to reset, recharge, and rediscover your most joyful self through aha moments and simple energy techniques. Today we're discussing Feel Those Feels. Did you know that the secret to having more joy in your life is to feel the entire rainbow of your emotions? You may have heard messages about there being negative emotions, and I don't think that there's a single negative emotion out there. We were born as human beings, and we have this plethora of emotions that give depth to our life. And so we need to feel them. We deserve to feel them. And when we say that there's negative emotion, we start to place a judgment on our emotions, and there's really nothing wrong with any emotion. It's the actions that are taken out of emotion that sometimes aren't okay. The emotion itself always is a message from your body that you're alive and something is happening. In the mid-1970s, I had the opportunity to go out west with people that I babysat for to Banff, Alberta, and I had an experience with a wild mountain goat. It came up and it licked my hand, and I had this fleeting moment of happiness, but it didn't last. You see, at that point in my life, I was living at home with my family in a system where we didn't talk about emotions. We didn't feel. And we really walked around in a place of numbness. There wasn't a great deal of happiness in our home, not a ton of play, and in fact, there was a ton of sarcasm. Let's face it, that was emotion coming out sideways that hadn't been properly expressed. So how did I get from that point to being of numbness and being told that I was too emotional, calm down, my gosh, oh my gosh, there she goes again, and being belittled for feeling my feelings? Well, in the early 1990s, shortly after I completed my social work training, I started therapy. And one of the most important, greatest things that happened was my incredible therapist, Trish, taught me how to feel my feels, just how to be present with my emotions and how to honor them. And in a very short time, I went from having one or two feelings that I could name and feel to having a plethora of feelings, a rich range of emotion that I could talk about and experience. You see, when I first went to therapy, I would only feel sadness or I'd feel guilt. And I didn't have that full range, that emotion. I just wouldn't allow myself to access them and perhaps didn't know how to access my emotions. And Trish helped me get in touch with my body and start to really be present for myself in a way that I could acknowledge my emotion, I could label it, and then feel it. And this was magic for me because the magic was being present with my emotions. And she taught me just to feel the emotion and allow myself to be in the emotion and not try to change it, not try to do anything, but simply being present with myself in this place of vulnerability that was amazing and created a lot of freedom in my life. Funny, eh? We don't think that getting in touch with emotion creates freedom, but it really does. Because as we allow ourselves to feel the difficult emotions and we bring in human compassion or self-love and self-caring and we accept them without judgment, we can actually just be very loving with ourselves and have a life of emotion that is balanced and grounded and helps us to have conversations that are super healthy and vulnerable, and also help us to figure out what the boundaries are we need to set in our lives for ourselves and our wellness. I remember that first day walking across the parking lot to my therapy, and when I realized, oh, what is this feeling? I think I'm happy. And I went into my session, and Trish said to me in typical social work fashion, how are you feeling today? And I said, I think I'm happy. And we talked about it a little more and processed it. And she was able to validate that that was my feeling state. And it was like this major breakthrough, something that I hadn't actually experienced in a way where I fully acknowledged it before. And my life continues to evolve and continued. And some days and some emotions are harder to get in touch with and recognize, and others are easier. But it's really about taking the time to listen to our body, to just tune in and understand what is that physical sensation and what emotion is that physical sensation um, claiming for us or identifying for us. And then allowing yourself to just, feel that emotion and then label it appropriately. This is one of the very first things that I do when I'm working with my clients is I have a feeling sheet that I gift them, and I have them understand what their emotions are. And what I find is that there's three common ways that people stay out of a touch with their emotion. One is getting really angry and going into the blame shame game, where I may be the victim and you have done something wrong to me and you deserve to plan. And when you fix it, and what that does is it gives you all of the power in my life and it depowers me because I'm waiting for you to make amends before I feel better. No. So it's underneath the anger is all these plethora of emotions of often hurt, shame, guilt, that we need to get into. And if we can get to the deeper level of emotions, then we can have the breakthroughs. Anger is often a signal too that we really need to set a boundary with ourselves. We're doing something we're not okay with, or we're allowing somebody else to do something we're really not okay with. And the second way is that we just numb out. We do things, we eat, we keep busy, we work like crazy hours, and we just will not give ourselves the time nor space to feel our emotions, and we're numb. And again, that's what happened with my family. And generally, when we numb out, it comes out sideways in some way. I remember I used to get angry and then I'd cry, which was humiliating because I was trying to numb my anger instead of getting into those deeper emotions and feeling them. Another way that is kind of becoming popular these days is what I call toxic positivity. And I'm not putting down gratitude because I believe in that fully, but I'm talking about using gratitude to avoid emotion, where everything is great and we shame that if you have too much anger, you're going to have liver problems. If you have too much of this emotion, and it's not having too much of an emotion, but it is in fact not feeling the emotion that becomes problematic. So you really want to get in touch with your emotions, because the only way you're going to really feel joy is if you take time for the sadness and feel it when it comes, for the grief, for the hurt, for the happiness, for the joy. All of it needs to come together as an incomplete. We can't say, I'll only have this emotion, but I won't have that emotion. It's a packaged deal. So, how do you feel your feelings? Get in touch with your body, because it is remarkable what can happen and how by just being in touch with your emotions that you can make major shifts in your life. Have you ever had a situation where you were struggling with something and you wanted somebody to really listen and hear you? And they did, and they didn't expect anything from you. They just were present with you in the moment, and you felt this sense of relief. The same happens in your body when you listen to your emotions and you get into the deeper emotions. And as a contrast, an experience of joy. Last fall, I had the opportunity to go to Sedona Wolf Sanctuary. And I met Luna, a beautiful black-facing gray wolf. And oh my goodness, it was such an incredible experience. We were in his enclosure and we sat down and he came to us and licked us and jumped all over us and did all sorts of things with us. And we decided to get the wolf pack or attempt to get the wolf pack howling together. And so we started to howl. And as I was howling, Luna came very close within probably about 4 to 6 inches from my face and started to howl with me. Oh my goodness, I can't talk about this story without feeling the joy. It's still taking my breath away months later. I felt the resonance of his howl in my chest for a week. Excuse me, in that moment, there was nothing else present in the entire universe than Luna and I in deep, deep connection. And for me, that joy lasted for a week and it's still living in me. And I can say to you that because I learned to feel my feelings and I honor my feelings, this is how I got to have so much joy from that experience, because I was emotionally alive and I felt those feels. So my invitation for you in this next week is to pay attention to your body, pay attention to those emotions, be present for yourself, honor yourself. What is this feeling? And find the names for your emotions so that you too can have a full range of emotions and experience full joy. We've shared another 10 minutes of growth together. Remember, joy is a practice, not a destination. Keep moving forward, and I'll be right here with you next Friday. Please rate and review my podcast. Let's spread the joy to more listeners.